Welcome in, friend, to another look inside one of the author's hearts in these life-changing stories. Heather Jeffrey is with me today. Heather, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us to do this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, your story is powerful, and it talks about what God taught you, or some of the things that you went through during the pandemic and the shutdown and all of that. And so, thank you just for sharing that piece of your story with us. As you have been able to have a little distance, but now between this time in your life and where we are currently, looking back, what is some of the transformation in your heart that you know now needed to happen that this season of your life revealed?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway and the way I was transformed is full dependence on God. When the pandemic started, my marriage was falling apart. I talked about that in my story, and I felt like I needed to be home so that I could do something about it. And I was praying all the time, but my particular prayer was, God, let me be home so I can fix this marriage.
Mm.
And through the course of the next several months where I wasn't at home and in fact spent more time away from home as a healthcare provider, it was revealed how no, God was going to fix things and it wasn't going to be the way I thought it should be. In my mind at that time, the only answer to my prayer was that God was going to restore at my marriage with reconciliation. But God had an entirely different plan, and it turns out to be the best plan. But at the time, it I thought I had to do something. I had to fix this. I had to be home to do it. And God showed me that no, I have the perfect place for you. I have a plan, and it's going to be better than anything you could possibly think of.
Thank you for being so open about that. I can really relate to what you're saying because I think most of us, if we're honest, there are times that almost like in our ignorance or in our like we have these good motives to take our need to the Lord in prayer, right? I mean, that we know that praying about things changes things and it changes us, and we know that, and so we take it to the Lord in prayer. But somehow, as we take it to the Lord in prayer, we're already playing God in the prayer because we're actually saying, I know what to do. Will you just orchestrate the event so that what I know to do will be what happens, right?
Exactly. Sometimes we're seeking confirmation more than we're seeking God's solution. And I wanted confirmation that I was going to be able to be home. I could do this and just give me the sign, Lord, send me home and I'll know what to do.
Yeah.
And but his plans are so much more in depth and intricate. We could never come up with so many details. In the end, God ended up meeting so many needs that I didn't know I had. I could have never planned for all of that because we can't see into the future to see what we need, months, years, even decades ahead of time. But God is just amazing that He can and He does arrange things like that for us.
Yeah. I appreciated what you had to say in your story about looking into other people's lives and feeling like they had what you needed and that God was somehow keeping that from you. Like if my story were like theirs, then I would have what I needed. And I'm wondering, can you speak to how you experienced, and probably how many of it experienced, like comparison and looking at other people and the way God's working in their lives, almost like as a distraction to be able to receive what God is doing in our lives, right?
Yeah, like I said, me being home and really hoping for reconciliation to repair as a family was really on my heart at the time. And so praying to God that I would have the time to be home, and then seeing on Facebook, all of these families posting their daily walks, the family meals they're having, speaking every day about how fantastic it's been to reconnect and spend extra time together, and the time that we don't have when, quite frankly, both spouses are working, children are in school, children have sports. So when all of that slowed down, and families were really able to reconnect with one another, but that was the healthy side of it. What God knew that I didn't know is that there were also families who weren't healthy, and that was not a good dynamic for them.
Mhm.
And in the end, once I was able to look back on it, that was God's greatest saving grace in my story is that he didn't keep me in a
Mm.
home that was full of turmoil, and that wasn't my life every day.
Yeah.
And then not even getting into the wonderful things that he did through Miss Pearl and I's relationship, but
Mhm.
just that
Mhm.
one piece of wanting what everyone else had
Yeah.
would have actually been probably the worst thing for me.
I appreciate that you're willing to share that too, because I feel like so often the thing that we think we have or the thing that we think other people have is actually um the thing that we don't need, and it's the same thing that can prevent us from seeing that God is at work in our lives. Like the thing that he's not giving us, let's see if I can say this better. The thing he's not giving us is the way that he's loving us, right? It's the way that he's
Absolutely.
providing for us. It's the way he's protecting us, when at the time sometimes it feels like he's ignoring us, or he's left us out, or he's taking care of other people but not of us. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's honestly how I felt is God, my prayer, my heart prayer was that God would heal my marriage, heal myself, heal my children as we were all going through our own things at the time. But the words that were coming out to God were, "Can you please find a way for me to be home
Be
more?"
home. Yeah.
And
This is
that's
how
what
I
I
would
was
fix it.
expecting.
Go back to that,
Yeah,
right? This is how I would fix it. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That was my prayer in words, but God is a gracious God. He could hear my heart's prayer too, and that's the prayer he
Yes.
chose to answer.
Oh, I appreciate that distinction. That's beautiful. Where really, I think that goes back to he knows that it's our ignorance. And I say that in the purest form of the word, like we're asking for what we think we need. We really
Right,
are. This makes sense. I mean, as I read your word and as I want restoration, I want healing, I want that. And I think that it comes this way because maybe that's my
yes,
experience, or that whatever, this is my preconceived idea. And he says, I know what you're really asking for, and the way you're asking me to do it isn't going to take you there, right? And I love you enough to give you what you need,
right.
even though at first it doesn't feel like it's what you are, what you're wanting from me. Yeah. So as you think about the transformation that happened, can you pinpoint what you needed to surrender? What did you have to let go of in order to experience that transformation?
My plan for how it should happen, or my expectation, you could put it that way.
Yeah.
Um, you know, lay all expectations at his feet and allow him to work for my greater good, the greater good of my family, in the best way possible. I serve a lot of roles, mom. At the time, I was a physical therapist working as a rehab director in assisted living. So, in many of my roles, I am in some way directing other people
Mm.
and directing how things go. And I really had to surrender that part of me because this is one area in my life that I wasn't the director. I wasn't in control. I wasn't the authority. So that really, it was a great learning experience for me to let that go. That's what it really takes to truly surrender to God and be able to say, not my will, but your will. So that was something I don't think I would have learned any other way.
Yeah, as we're recording these, I get to be the only one at this point that is listening to them all and listening to all the authors. And it for my friend who's listening right now, if you've listened to several of these, you know what if when we get to this question, what did it require you to let go? So often it is control. It's so often
Mhm.
control. And people say it differently, but I think it's really boiling down to that. And I find that so interesting and telling about like control, or the desire to control, or the myth that we can control is such a hindrance. It's an obstacle we have to overcome in order to experience the transformation that Christ offers us.
Yes, and laying down our own human expectations.
Hmm.
Our human mind can only perceive so much.
Hmm.
And, I've learned I will let go of my human expectation for divine expectation any day. And
Mm.
that's really the biggest transformation of all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how are you experiencing fruit from this transformation in your life now? Where do you see some of the blessing and some of the good that has come from this learning experience?
God has really taken the entire situation, from my marriage falling apart, emotional and spiritual abuse in my marriage, and divorce, walking through that process and doing it alongside Miss Pearl, whose circumstances were entirely different. She was losing her husband to dementia. Um, there was no abuse, there was none of that. But what at the end of the day, what she and I had in our lap to deal with were very similar.
Mm,
She was selling a condo and was concerned about how to do that without her husband's help. A woman in her 90s who had never had to do anything since she was 18 without her husband. And here I was trying to figure out through the divorce process how I would refinance my house and how I would be able to pay the bills. And those two together, we were really dealing with the same thing from a different perspective. So, in my conversations with Miss Pearl, I was finding that God was using my words to mentor to her. However, he was really mentoring back to me. And on the other side of this, it just awoke this passion in me that I really want to help other women through these processes. So now on the other side, I'm mentoring women who are in abusive marriages, who are spiritually abused, emotionally abused. Um, and it's so much more prevalent than I ever knew. I mean, I have women reaching out to me on a daily basis, and a lot of them in my own community, some people online that I don't know, but
Heather, yeah.
even in my own communities. And so God really has turned it for good, a true Romans 8:28 story, and that my pain and my experiences, what I now do is work with other women who are going through this. And it's very confusing. It's hard to find truth. And when you want to do things in a biblical way, but you're looking at so much sin, how do you navigate sin biblically?
Yeah.
It's a
Mhm.
tricky question, especially in marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And you have become their Miss Pearl.
and some I would love to be compared to Miss Pearl. She was a real gem.
Well, from an outside looking in, what did she offer you? And friend, I really encourage you to read Heather's story if you haven't yet in the book about Miss Pearl. But she offered you wisdom and friendship and companionship. She was your companion on a difficult road. And what else are you but that offering these women now, right?
Mm.
What she offered you, you're now extending to other people who need a hand. I have a dear friend, her name's Jody Rosser, and she explained like compassion. Do you know Jody?
I do know
She,
Jody.
yes, explained compassion one time on my podcast as being able like a bridge, right? And sometimes
Mhm.
we're on one side of the bridge, sometimes we're in the middle of the bridge, but people on the other side of the bridge can reach back a hand to the person on the middle of the bridge,
Yes,
and the person on the middle of the bridge can reach a hand back to the person on the other side. And Jody tells the story better than I do, but I see that image, and I see that's what you're talking about here. That's a fruit of this transformation where you can extend a hand to someone who's
absolutely.
a few steps behind you.
Absolutely. And it's
Hmm.
funny that you mentioned Jody. Jody was actually a dear friend who, during my own divorce process, reached out to me, and I
Oh,
was one of those hands that she grabbed. And I just cannot thank God enough for her. She lives a 3 hour time difference from me, and she would purposely time her calls that she would call and be like, am I calling too late or am I calling too early? And it was always right on time.
that sounds like Jody. So friend, look up Jody. JodyRoster.com, I think, is her book is Depth. I'm just going to give her a shout out since we're talking about her here. But yeah, Jody is a beautiful gift to the world too, as she spreads the love of Jesus Christ. So Heather, thank you so much. Thank you for your story. Thank you for being a part of this project. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us today just to share additional pieces of your heart. We really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
It's been great. And thank you, friend, for continuing to listen. Until next time, peace.